And now, Advice with Rice.
Well, Randolph Rice, managing partner at Rice Law, joins us this morning for another edition of Advice with Rice.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, guys. How are y'all?
We are doing
great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're talking about something that might get people to think twice about ordering a hot beverage. A California man.
This was the story that came out last week that, if you remember, back in the 90s, this was a similar story from the 90s, but a man was driving for Postmates. He went to a Starbucks. The barista gave him a couple of teas, hot teas. One of them came out of the holder, spilled in his lap, and caused horrible, horrible injuries. And last week, a jury in California awarded him $50 million. That's with an M. $50 million. Crazy. Yeah.
And so why was Starbucks at fault in this?
Well, in this case, unlike the McDonald's case back in the 90s, what they said is that they didn't place the cups in the container, in the holder correctly, and that's what ultimately caused them to foul. You remember, back in the 90s, they changed we were talking about this off air, they changed the lid. If you ever go into any type of coffee shop, it now says caution, hot containers, right? Well, that prevented everybody knowing, okay, there's a 180-degree coffee in here. Well, now what they've said is that, well, if you don't put it in the container and hand it to the guy through the window correctly, you could be liable. The problem is, I have a feeling that this might not stick, because just like in the McDonald's case, Starbucks has appealed it. And when you appeal it, things can certainly change.
Yeah, certainly. And so you mentioned the McDonald's case a few years back. Do you think more chains could be sued by consumers as we moving forward? Well,
this is an interesting sort of comment. It might not be so much the legal world we're looking at, but more so people that are saying, hey, look, I'm not really happy with corporations right now. You know, I might want to take out some of my frustration. But what was interesting in this case was the plaintiff, the guy who got hurt, he said if they would have just apologized, which is so many companies, we tell companies all the time, just apologize. Oftentimes that will resolve the issue, but Starbucks didn't apologize. They weren't willing to make changes, and that's ultimately why this guy sued him.
Wow.
Crazy.
So now $50 million later, did that settlement include anything else? Or
it had some fees, so at the end of the day, it's actually not going to be 50. It's probably going to be more like $60 million.
Oh.
I know. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of coffees.
No more, yes.
Gosh, yes. So if somebody, hopefully this doesn't happen again, but if somebody does happen to run into this similar situation, do they reach out to you? How can they?
You know, and this happened in California. The California laws are a lot different than Maryland. But certainly if something happens that seems negligent, reach out to a lawyer. That's certainly the first step. Let the lawyer decide, or help you at least decide, if you should go forward.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
we
guys.
appreciated you. Yes. And we'll be right back.
Advice with Rice, brought to you by Rice Law.